Dust Biters is a very small game, only 21 cards for 2 players only. Definitely a filler that plays in about 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes. The theme is we're in a Mad Max kind of world, and there are 2 gangs of people driving weird modified vehicles, and you're driving in front of a giant sandstorm, and so somebody will be swallowed up by the sandstorm at the end of every turn. You win by being the last player standing, that is, the last player with vehicles in the play area, because all the vehicles of the opponent have been destroyed by you and or by the storm. The rulebook, very short, as you can see. And this is the game. This is just all that there is. At the beginning of the game, you shuffle these cards and you give 4 to each player. Then you also place 4 cards in a line. 4 are facing one player, and the other 4 will be facing the other player. And the cards that are facing you represent your own vehicle. Then you have to decide which side is in the front and which side is in the back. And let's say that in our example, this side is the back of the convoy. This is where the sandstorm is coming. At the end of each turn, the card that is the closest to the sandstorm will be destroyed. So again, you have 4 vehicles on the board at the beginning of the table. You have your hand of cards that represent other vehicles that you can play, and usually when you play a vehicle, it'll be played in front of the convoy, unless there is a special effect that lets you do something else. And this is important because each card, again, each representing a vehicle, has either a standing ability like that, or a specific action that you can activate, and some actions can be activated only once per turn, and they have a lightning bolt there to indicate that. Just to give an example of some of the things that these cards can do. Now, pretty simple. Players alternate taking turns, and when it is your turn, you can take 3 actions that you can spend in one of 4 possible ways, and you can repeat the same action multiple times if it's allowed, unless it's prevented by a symbol there. So you can repeat actions, you can take your actions in any order, so there's some flexibility there. Pretty simple. For an action, you can take a card from your hand and play it in front of the convoy, again facing you to indicate ownership. You can drive, that is, you can move one of your cars 1 space forward in the convoy, so simply swapping position right there. That's an action, and then I want to drive this one forward, and that's another action that I just took. You can draw a card from the deck, which is a very valuable option because you only have 21 cards. 16 are either on the table or in player's hands at the beginning of the game, so the deck is going to be of only 5 cards, and once they're gone, they're gone. There are the ways of getting cards out of the discard pile, but the resources of remaining cards are very limited. You will want to grab those, but there are also a lot of other good things that you want to do. And again, and for an action, you can activate a power of one of your cards. Again, the cars being here. Say, for example, activate this one and says move any other car to the front. And so, for example, I take this card here and I move it to the front, just like so. Or I decide to use another ability like probably several abilities will allow you to destroy cars, and that's important because ultimately this is the point. So you take 3 actions, again, build a car, playing in front of the convoy, moving cars, driving them by swapping them in the convoy, drawing cards from the deck, or activating powers on the cars. After you perform your 3 actions, the card that is in the back is removed from the game and placed in a discard pile, and that's the idea. You continue like this until only one player has cards on the table, and at that point the player is the winner of the game. So the game is really very simple. in essence. It can get a little more complicated when you're actually trying to play it well. That is, when you're trying to create a nice chain of effects, because you do have 4 or 5 unique effects on the board, usually, especially toward the early game, before the opponents start destroying your cards. Some of those effects really will matter and will make sense depending on the order in which you activate them. Oh, this card only makes sense or gives me an effect if it's in front. See, so is there a card that I can use to put that card in front? Then I use that effect. Oh, then this one allows me to use the effect of the card that is on top of the discard pile. So I'm gonna take that effect into account. If I get that one out, it goes there and it annuls the effect of another card, and so on and so forth. So for a filler that is very, very simple in essence, take those actions. When you look at the way you can use the actual unique actions of the cards, the strategy can become quite interesting. I want to say that on one hand, I like that element. On the other hand, for a little filler like this one, it almost has an element of analysis paralysis. It can lead to that, because if you really try to figure out what your cards can do, the situation can change dramatically, and you can be able to destroy 2 cards of the opponent, 3 cards, inflict major damage. Again, if you take your time to figure that out. And that thinking you do have to do at the beginning of your turn, because the opponent will mess up things around dramatically by moving, destroying cards, stealing cards. You really can't do a lot of planning during the opponent's turn. And so at the beginning of each turn, you will have to look at the new situation and think about it. Again, luckily enough, it's only 2 players, so you don't have to wait around while several opponents think or maybe even overthink their turn. But it has that element. There is a puzzle element, and so I thought I would mention it. Not that that really became that much of a problem. Especially for me, because I played the game with my kids that are now 9 and 11, and the 9-year-old really, really likes it, although she always loses, because she doesn't see all the puzzle, all the elements of the puzzle. And again, since they don't take nearly as much time thinking about the moves as I do, it wasn't practically a problem in my actual experience, but it may be in other groups. Other than that, this is a quite pleasant game. I think the art is fun. It's both serious and exciting, and has that thematic element. It really represents this theme of fighting in the desert in a convoy of crazy cars. But there's also an element of humor there that is quite cool. In particular, I like the car with the necromancer. I want to show it to you if I haven't showed it to you yet. It's just really cute. So there's a humorous element, a cartoonish element. So the production, I like the art, and the cards are also good enough for the production value. It's only 21 cards, so I'm glad they didn't mess up the production. That happens sometimes, but not here. It's a good production. In terms of gameplay, again, it's a simple, humorous filler. It's very mean, in essence, because that really is the core of the game. Destroy cards of the opponent directly by destroying them, and or by making sure that at the end of the turn, bloop, their card is the one that they destroyed by the sand dust. It's an interesting. It's very it's very confrontational. There's definitely a strong mean streak there. But if you can take it, if your opponent can take it, then Dust Biters is a simple in terms of rules, a quite puzzling in terms of strategy, meaning there's a puzzle element. So it's a filler that is light, but with some interesting decisions in there.